Hello friends, hope all of you are doing good. Today we are going to see how we can use our Java program to connect with MySQL database using JDBC connectivity. In our last session, we saw how to install MySQL community server into our PC, and also we see how to create a schema and table and run some sample queries, SQL queries. Now, we are going to connect our database using our Java program using 5 simple steps. To connect to a database, we need to register a driver class. We need to register a driver class first. Then we need to get a connection established to that particular database. Then we need to create a statement to run some queries. Then we need to execute the query, and whatever the process we want to do with that execute query, we can do that. After that, we just need to close the connection. So where we are going to get the driver class? We need to get the appropriate database connectivity driver libraries from Maven repository where I am downloading the files. I'll show you how to download a MySQL connector jar file. To download the MySQL connector jar file, you need to open Google Chrome and go to Maven Central, Maven repository, or Maven Central it is called. The Maven repository, you need to search for JDBC connector. You'll see MySQL connector J. I downloaded this 8.0.21 version. You can click this and download the jar file by clicking this file. So I'm already downloaded this file into my downloads. You can see this jar file. I copy this, go to your Eclipse and paste this into the project. I already created this JDBC tude as a project, and I copied my required jar file. This library is required to operate with the MySQL JDBC connector. For each different database servers like Oracle, MS SQL, all those have their own jar file for connecting the database. Now let's create a class which will connect to the database. I am just going to create it as my first JDBC. I'm switching on my main method. Select the file created. Okay, now I have created my file. And let me just run my sysout hello world to see whether it works. Hello world, yes, run it. Yes, hello world got printed. Now you have to load the driver class using Class.forName. Inside run brackets, you need to give com.mysql.jdbc.Driver and just to the semicolon, and you need to add it in a try catch block. Okay, now let's run this. You're going to get an error message, a simple error message. This one is duplicated as it's an older one, and you got the new MySQL driver here. Let's try with this new MySQL driver. I'm pasting it here. Run this. Yes, now no error caught. That means this is working fine. Our next step is to create a connection. So let's create a connection using DriverManager. It's going to be an SQL connection. Let me just give us con, and I need to create like DriverManager.getConnection. So inside this connection, I actually need to pass the URL. So that URL is my database connectivity URL. Here I need to create a string URL. Let me just create the URL, string URL in double quotes. It's going to be JDBC colon MySQL colon in double slash and local host colon. The host, it need to be there in the local host. It may be an IP address as well. As I'm using my local, it is a local host, and 3306 is my port number. And you can give the database name. As you know, we have created a database here, training DB. So training underscore DB. So let me just connect with the training underscore DB. Add the exception here with a catch clause. I'm adding the SQL exception catch as well. And I have given the URL here. I need to pass my username and password. I'm just going to use the root username. It's not a good practice, even though I'm going to use the root password, root user and root password. Now I'm supposed to get a connection here. If the connection is unable to establish, that is going to throw an exception. Let's run this and see. Now you can see there is no exception happen. That means it was actually created a connection. So let's try to execute the next step. We need to create a statement. Statements are also something in the SQL. You can create a statement stmt using connection, using your connection dot. It's a create statement and semicolon. Now you can execute the query using this statement. So stmt dot execute. Now the statement dot execute, and inside this you need to give your query. You can bring this SQL query of select star from that employee table. The employee table was already there, so you are just going to bring this query. And I edited this database name. I removed because I'm directly connecting to the database. This execute query is going to bring some data in this execute part, or if it is something like execute query, it is going to give me a return result. It is in a result set. I can just add it into the result set, or it's a result set. It's a result set, and rs equal to this result set. So now this result set is going to get the data, and finally what we are going to do is we have to close this connection. So this is like connection dot close, okay, and semicolon. Done. Okay, done. Now this rs, what this rs contains, we'll see that later after just running this. Okay, the hello world end. Now let us use a while loop to print this because we have rs as next. When you do rs.next, you are going to get the next row. It is going to iterate over the table. So now let's give it something like while rs.next. So it returns a boolean value. If it is having a rs.next, it has a value, then we can use something like rs.get. Yeah, you can get the string with the column index 1. Okay, so let's try to print this. Sys out. You're going to print this. Now this rs.next is going to return a boolean value if there is a new record or it is a next record available, and we can get this rs.getString using the index of that column, or you can use a label. The label in the sense you can use the label like ID, name, department name, etc. So now I'm just going to use the one that is an index. Let me just try what is going to print. You can see it has printed 1. Now I'm going to use something like 2 and run this. It's printing my name, hello, Arun R.S. Chandran, and let me just comment this hello first. And now it is not going to run hello world. And now the same thing I can use with the name of that field, name. Now still that name Arun R.S. Chandran is coming. Let me just change this field name to role. Is coming with the lead. Now let's go back to the database and insert some more data. 1. I'm going to insert it in multiple times. Oh, maybe that's a problem, which I'm going to give 3 archer 1. Then copy this. You can give this multiple times as well. You may need to give a comma here, That should work. Oh no, you don't need to. You're not supposed to give the values. You're supposed to give only the values. Okay. Now you're going to get 4, 5, and you're going to change this archer 1, 2, and archer 3, lead 1, lead 2. Just let me just search this. Now you can see the 3 rows got inserted. If you search this here, you can see 5 records. So the total records which is going to display using your program is 5 times it is going to display. Let's run this. You see lead 1. Let me just change this to name, and with that I'm going to give the ID as well. So plus, put some double quotes in between, put a comma, name. Let's print the ID as well. Now what's going to happen? We're going to display with our ID and the name. Now you can see 1 Arun R.S. Chandran, 2 Archer, 3 Archer 1, 4 Archer 2, 5 Archer 3. So we have displayed with our code. Now the execute query gives us some, execute query brings us the data retrieval process, whereas we need to insert some data to our database. Let's do some insert process using, I'm going to comment this result set part. The statement execute part I'm going to change with statement dot execute So inside this execute, what I can pass is a string of insert query. So I can pass the string of insert query. Let me just pick the insert query which I have created here, right? I just want to edit a little bit because there are a lot of special characters and all. I don't prefer to use that special characters. ID, name, and remove this part, and remove it, role. Okay, now the values is what I'm supposed to insert. Let's change this to 4, and this is something like, I'm changing this archer to Abhinav, and the developer, and the lead I'm going to change. Okay, sorry, this have to be go there, developer into software development. Okay, now you copy this code, this query, this is SQL query, you copy and paste it in between. It automatically aligns. And now if this execute query is returning a boolean value, inserted. Okay, so this is inserted. So if this value is inserted, we are going to print that. If this value is inserted, then we are going to print sysout data insert successful. Okay, we'll give something like else sysout. You're going to print data insert failed. Data insert failed. Let's run this. Okay, there is an unknown field department. Okay, there is a query problem. Depart. Okay, so there was a spelling mistake when I created in the beginning. So depart main. It was actually department. Okay, so you need to correct it. So whatever the field name you gave there, it is case sensitive. You have to apply the same here as well. Now I'm running it again. Now the duplicate key 4 came because the key 4 is already inserted, which is the primary key, which I need to change the 5 or 6. Okay, let's improve this into 6. And I'm just running it again. Now I'm sure the 6 was not there, so the data inserted. Let's go back and reload this table data. So now we have inserted the data. So far we have been using an insert query and we had a trouble with the primary key insertion. Now let's do something to auto increment the ID so that we don't need to generate the ID each time because it is a unique one. We need to generate a dynamic one. So let's try to use auto increment. What we need to do is we need to go to the alter table by right clicking on the employee table, alter table. Inside this you can see the ID, which is a primary key and a not null. You just have to take care of this. Just tick this AI, that is auto increment, and apply. And then apply this, finish. Now we don't need to worry about the ID portion. We don't need to insert the ID. Say you can just remove this ID part and you run this query. It is going to auto generate the ID for you. So now this has generated one new ID. You can see it is 7. Abhinav has again inserted. Now if I am adding the Abhinav 1, 2, 3 and run it, what you see is the Abhinav 1, 2, 3 is going to insert with an ID 8. So now we have seen we don't need to insert any ID explicitly. Now let's make that changes in our software code as well, the database code as well. I'm going to remove the ID portion and I remove this ID whatever I have mentioned. So I gave Abhinav, I'm changing this to Guru, and software development department to management, and its developer. I'm going to change this as senior manager. Just save it, and we are going to run as run. Let's see this data field inserted. Let's reload this. We can see the Guru has inserted with number 9. Now anyway, we have got this system data inserted. Now let's uncomment this and try to print the data which is getting received from this database. I just formatted using Ctrl+Shift+F. Now what my code is expecting is it's going to insert a data and going to display all the data. Now you can see my code has inserted and the Guru has inserted again with ID number 10. Now let's try something different, the query, that is select star from employee. I'm going to add a clause which is actually a condition. I'm going to give a condition where ID greater than 10. So what is going to happen when I run this? You are not going to receive any result because there is no data above 10. Let's change this above 5 and run it. You are going to receive the 6 to 10 IDs that records. Why you are getting that is because the condition getting applied. And also you can add something like order by to sort your query data. Now I'm going to give order by ID in descending order. For that I need to add DESC. Just run this. You are going to receive the data in descending order. You can see 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay. So now let's try with this query in the result set. Not in the result set, in the statement.execute query. I'm going to change this here. Remove the training DB and save this. What are going to see here again? So let me just insert one more data like Guru 1, 2, 3. Okay. Run this. The data got inserted and we got reversed order. The 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 got displayed. So we learned about the sorting. Now let's try giving something with the update query. So how you can get the query is you just need to right click on this table and you can do a copy to clipboard, or you can send to query editor. You can see update statement. Click on update statement. This brings you this update statement here. Update the table name employee, set the values, and you need to add the condition where condition. Okay, let's try to do this. Say I'm going to update the training DB employee update. I don't want to edit the ID because I want to edit it using the ID. So I'm setting the name to some value what is the value which I'm going to set is, let me give it as Gokul, and the department name is, I'm going to set his department name to software development, and I'm not going to mention any role. I don't want to update any role, and I want to use the ID where the ID, say for example, I want to edit this Abhinav, the ID Abhinav, which is actually having 6 ID 6 to this data. So the name should change to Gokul and the department name should change to software development. Okay, so the software development department is already software development. So anyway, let's do with that, and M6 with ID and set, just run this. It's actually going to run the query, and you can see update set, and it actually affected one record. You can run this select query. You can see the number 6, the ID number 6 has updated. So how we can bring this update query into our code? We can come back here. I just want to give something like an update query. I just want to comment this. Say statement dot execute. Here also you need to give this and execute, and what going to happen, the execute is going to return a boolean value again. So I'm just going to take the boolean and here paste it, done. Now the ID 6, I just wanted to make the change on ID number 10. Okay, so now I want to change the ID number 10 to Arun, and into the software development to the management, and ID 10 is going to change. Okay, let's check what is the existing value of all these things. The ID number 10 is Guru and it's management. Okay, let me just change the management to human resource. Okay, so now this is going to get updated with human resource, and yeah, that's enough. So let's run this. Okay, so the data insert successful. You have to give data update successful because we are updating this, right? Now let's try this. Run as Java application. What we are going to get is number 10. You can see number 10 changed to Arun. Let's go back to the database and let's try to select up to this so that I will get all the records. Yep, the record number 10 got changed. The ID number 10 got changed to Arun, and in human resource and senior management. So that's an update. So far we have seen an insert and a retrieval, and also we have seen something like a update a record. Now let's try something with the delete query. So for deleting also we will seek the help of our MySQL workbench. You go to the employee table, right click, and you're going to have the send to SQL edit the delete statement. So the delete statement is coming from delete training DB from employee, and where the condition you need to give that here. So let me just do a control insert. There is a trouble. So okay, this is the place I want the query to pop up. Let me go to, let me scroll it a little bit down. That will help me to see it properly. Okay, now I'm going to send this to the SQL editor, the delete statement. Now what I'm going to do is delete from the table employee, the table employee is there, and what I'm going to delete is ID equal to 10. That means the ID number 10 record I'm going to remove from the database. Now you can see one row affected. Now let's check in the table whether the ID number 10 data available or not. Run the select query. We are successfully deleted. Now what we have seen is we got deleted the ID number 10. So we need to copy this code and run it in our Java. For that we need to create another statement, boolean updated. I have modified a little bit in the code, the updated, or it should be deleted. So deleted, and inside this query what I will do inside the statement as statement dot it should be execute, and inside the query I need to pass this ID. So the ID which I'm going to pass is 7. Okay, so the ID number 7 is going to delete from the application. So now not from the application, from the table. Now you can see the data insert failed. Okay, maybe the ID number 7 might not be present. Let me just check. Yeah, the 7 is present. There is some other trouble. Let's check what happened. Okay, the 7 got deleted. So the deleted one, it is supposed to give something like data insert update successful, but somehow maybe I might have run this twice. Let's try with some other ID 6 and run this Java application. So the data insert failed. Why this is coming? So on update, on delete, it should display it as method deleted. Okay, so the execute will give you return true only when some data is inserted or updated. So now this doesn't matter here. The data got deleted for us. So we'll see what actually need to do for that. So to get the actual thing, what we can do is statement dot get update count. So if you get the update count as how many records got updated, you can just see this number printed here. So just go here and updated values. So how many numbers got updated? Let's run this. Now I'm going to get 0 because nothing has been deleted. I'm just going to give 9. Giving this 9, run as Java application. You can see updated records is 1. Okay, that means this code is working, and what you can do is statement dot updated count, behalf of giving this deleted count greater than 0, then the delete data delete successful. Okay, now this one have to be updated with 8. Okay, run this. Now you're going to get 0 records. The delete successful because above 5 there is no records. Let's cross verify that in the DB. Just check this with employee. You can see only up to 5 is available. So the select statement need to be removed with this order 5. What is going to happen? We are going to get the result 1 to 5. Now we are not inserting any code. Let's do some insert as well. Just uncomment this. So the insert code will work. and then this one is going to work with the update. So if it is updated, it is going to work. And let's see how many records, what is going to print here in the screen. So data insert failed, and then it is updated, data insert failed. Let's check what data insert failed, why it has failed. Say it didn't actually fail, but it is actually not showing the update count, so we have to show the update count. Let's check this to the update count. In every place we can give this update count. I'm going to change this update count, and then this one again. So each place it have to display this Control A, Control Shift F, so that it will be formatted. Run this. We can see that update successful and insert failed. And there is updated 0 because there is no record for that ID 10. I believe that is the problem. So the ID 10 doesn't have any update data, so I need to change that to 12 because we have now 12 is available in the data, so we can update that. Now let's see how this is going to update. The 12, the record number 12 is going to get updated. Okay, the data update successful twice. That means the first one was insert, the second one is update, and then we see this entire data over here. Let's go and update this into insert. This is insert successful, then this is update successful, and this is delete. Okay, then this should be delete. This place it is update, right? So we are giving an insert, then an update, then a delete. Run this and see the output. So now the data insert successful, data update successful, data delete got failed because we are trying to delete continuously on the same ID because this ID is going to miss. Now what we can do is let's delete something at the first position, delete from employee ID 1. Okay. Now run us. We're going to receive data insert successful, update successful, and delete successful. Okay. Now let us check the database. What is the data available right now? Yes. We got some neat details what we tried to operate. Now we have seen this data insert, update, select, all these operations using our own hard-coded parameters. It is not the actual case when it comes to the real-time scenario. The user is actually going to give you some data, and that user input data you are going to use. There is possibility of malicious SQL injection data a user can pass and harm your database. Some example may be passing an SQL query as part of the SQL injection, and your data may be deleted completely from the table. So let us try making this methods, the update, delete or insert, all these into different methods. So first let me just move this into different methods with some parameters. Okay, let me just give something like static. I'm going to give void insert data. So let's, behalf of doing this insert, let's give it something like save data. So inside this I'm just going to receive only the string name. Okay, so I don't want much things. And for delete, static void, what should I do is delete data. Okay, so let's change this to employee, right? That would be a good idea. Say employee, delete employee, then save. Also we are giving save employee, and delete employee. Here we will be receiving long, or let's give it as integer ID. So we'll be trying to delete the user with the integer ID what we are passing. Then let's work on something like static void update employee, or string, let's update department name. We can receive multiple data as well. Update department, string role, or even string name. Okay, so these are the three things we are going to update. The next is retrieval process. Let's give static void show employees. Okay, so here we don't need to do with any parameters, because we have all the data we need to display, so we don't need to bring any parameters over here. So let's bring this code, connection try catch blow connection dot create statement. Up to this, bring this here, and I'm going to close the connection and then bring it over here. Fine. Now let me bring the save employee code. That is, I have this insert query here, cut, bring it in between this. Okay, now what this name, what I can do with this name is, I need to append this name over here. This is the place where I have the name, right? So I need to append name. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pass a name to this field, and the name is going to get inserted. Okay, now the insert is successful. This method is going to work. Now I'm going to copy this entire thing here, here, and here. In all the places I did the same code, but I need to remove this portion, and this is show employees. What I need to bring here is the show employees code, that is here, cut. I'm going to paste it here to show the employees. Okay, then the next one is the update employees. So this portion is going to be update employees. So I'm going to pick the code of update employees. Just cut this, just cut up to this, and the update employee method, I need to change this to update code. Done. Now one more was there, the deleted. Okay, copy this, cut this, and done. Okay, now I'm going to modify one by one. Okay, now let me close all these things. I don't need this anymore. Save the save employee. What I'm going to do, the save employee, I'm going to call the save employee method here. So in the save employee method, I'm just going to call Alan. Okay, Alan is enough. Now let's see whether Alan is getting inserted. Let's see that. So now it is safe. We have seen that the query has inserted Alan, and I'm going to give an Amit which is trying to insert to the save employee. Let's see this save employee. Okay, now let's go back and check the database. Yeah, we can see Amit also inserted. Now, at the time of retrieval, we want to receive all the employees. We want to select all the employees, right? Or something like we want to pass some ID and select only that employees. So for example, I'm actually going to receive an ID here, integer ID, and I think the employee should be, I'm actually changing this with order by ID that I am removing, just adding command where ID equal to, what I need to do is I need to append the ID over here. So first let us try with the show employees. Say I'm just going to comment this. So show employees. We have seen that ID 18 has created now. I'm just trying to bring the ID data of Amit. Let's try to see that. Okay, the one record which is equivalent to 18 and Amit came. Now suppose if I am passing this as a string variable, there may be Amit and a name also somebody might be searching for. So now I'm just going to change this as string name. So if we are trying to use this string name, and this place we are going to change this as name and name. So this is a concatenation now. The name is going to get concatenated to this SQL query, and I'm going to pass Amit here. Okay, let me just bring behalf of bringing Amit, I just going to bring Arun because there may be so many Arun data in the database. Okay, run this. Okay, you got an error because you didn't concatenate it into the SQL format. You need to give this in a single quote here, and also you need to give a single quote at the end. Now if you run, you're going to get this application. Now you got the 12 and Arun. So I think we have only one Arun data. Now I removed the data with name Arun from database. So now we were trying to bring the data with Arun. So the Arun data is not present. So here you can see when I run the database doesn't have any data with Arun, so it's not going to display any data for this. Now what I'm going to do is, I don't know whether Arun is available or not. I just end with is single quotes and then give or 1 equal to 1. I'm trying to inject my own conditions into the SQL query, and then what I do is 2 hyphens which will work as a comment and then a single quotes as the parameter. Now we were only supposed to return a data. This is matching to the entire data, then only we wanted to return the data. Okay, so what happened with this, let's see. In between I have managed to change the data. Now you can see there is no data with Arun, but all the data which is coming from the database is popped up because we have given the condition or 1 equal to 1. So now say for example you wanted to give some data, you wanted to insert some data, say Arun, and you add this again. Say Samir, and you are giving Archa. So now these data you are going to insert to the database. Now you can see this data. When you select, you can see some data got created, and this data is going to be retrieved even when the user is searching for Arun. It's going to retrieve all the data. It's not only matching with Arun. Suppose the user doesn't know what will be allowing him to log into a system where you are trying to he's trying to inject the data using this SQL injection methodology, where your username and the password doesn't need to match, but using this OR condition, a simple query you inject to the system will be giving you all the data back. Okay, so that's what happening. Now, to prevent this SQL injection in Java, we use prepared statement. Rather than using the statement here, you are going to create something called prepared statement. Okay, so it's a prepared statement of SQL. Now we are going to create the prepared statement, and so we use prepared statement using connection.preparedStatement. Inside that you can pass your SQL query, and we will not bind the data in the beginning when we write the query, but at the runtime we pass this is the parameter which you need to use. Say how we do that is, we will be copying this entire query, cut this, use this, remove this, and question mark. Now what happens is your statement is created without any parameter. Now when you run the statement, you will actually append the parameter. Now we have set the SQL query as part of the prepared statement, and we need to set the parameter at the time of running the query. Statement dot set string, which is at the parameter index. We have the parameter index 1, we have only one, so I'm giving this as parameter index 1 and giving the name as the parameter over here. Now what happens is, when the time of running the SQL query, this entire parameter is not getting appended but used against the name value. Now let's see what is going to bring with the name Arun and the query which I have passed. There is no data came, literally no data came, because what happened is this Arun quotes, a single quotes, and or 1 equal to 1 and 2 hyphens and then single quotes is taken as the name. So that entire part is considering here as the name and trying to execute the query. So the data didn't come. Here's the proof. I'm actually going to change this value to Arun and save this and run this. You're going to get the return result of Arun. So now you can see the query is running and 43 Arun has selected. Now let's go back to the database and see the 43 has Arun. Now I'm updating one more value to Arun, and let me just update to some 2-3 more values to Arun. Some more Arun. Okay, apply this and finish. Now let's run it again. I'm expecting 3 records of Arun. Yes, we got 40, 39, 43 and 44. So all these comes with the data Arun. Now what we are going to do is, we will replace it again with the old SQL injection code, and let's see whether it is going to return a data or not. You see the application is executing and it exit with no data. So that's how you can get protected from SQL injection attacks using prepared statement. So the prepared statement is a recommended one when you develop using SQL and JDBC code in Java. So far we have seen how we can create a table in database and how to access it using JDBC, and also we operated all the CRUD operations, create, retrieve, update and delete operations. We learned about statement and prepared statement as well, and we saw how to prevent the SQL injection attacks. Hope you have understood all these concepts of SQL injection statements, prepared statements. If this video was useful for you, give us a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed yet, subscribe it now so that you will not miss any videos from us. Bye for now.